My name is Brandon Kendhammer, and I teach in the political science department. I'm a PhD candidate, and I do research on comparative politics, specifically on the comparative politics of West Africa and the Islamic world.
So could you tell us a little about your first encounter with Islam and the Muslim world?
My first real encounter with Islam was when I was 20 years old, when I was studying abroad in Cameroon, in Central Africa, which is not, properly speaking, an Islamic country. A relatively small minority of the country are Muslims. But we were in the northern part of the country, which is where the majority of the Muslims in Cameroon live, in a city called Ngaoundéré, which is one of these old, wonderful African Muslim cities that, is very tightly laid out, but it still seems very open. And it's just it was a beautiful, wonderful place. And I remember waking up in the morning and hearing the call to prayer. And I remember doing interviews with people. I was on a study abroad program, and so we were doing some research projects. And it was just a wonderful, peaceful, very interesting place. And that was my first exposure to Islam.
Now you're doing research about Islam. So tell us a little bit about your research.
So my research focuses very specifically on the process of Sharia law implementation in northern Nigeria since 1999. In 1999, Nigeria had a democratic transition. Sani Abacha, the military dictator, died in 1998. And in 1999, Nigeria had its first round of elections in 16 years. And as a result of those elections, some of the politicians who took office in the northern part of the country, which is again where the majority of the Muslims live in Nigeria, sought to implement Islamic law, or to, as they put it, to re-implement Islamic law. And what I study is the way in which how people talk about Islamic law, and the way in which the debate over whether it was a good idea to implement Islamic law and what that would entail affects how people think about democracy and what they expect from new democratic regimes.
And what's your biggest conclusion from this research?
So what I end up arguing, and this will end up getting wrapped in a little bit to your next question too, is that at the end of the day, religion is important and culture is important, and that's the sort of research that I do. But what often matters more than theology or doctrine is politics. The way that people construct arguments about what culture means for politics or what religion means for politics is not something that comes unproblematically out of people's religious beliefs. People have religious beliefs, and they're able to take parts of those beliefs, and they have lots of prior information about how their beliefs affect politics. But really, just like in America or any other country in the world, or any religion or cultural system in the world, people often aren't quite sure what the implications of their faith is for new political issues. And so politicians and people who participate in public debate in the media, on TV and radio, in films and books and pamphlets, these people often shape what religion actually means about politics. So it's not that doctrine or theology determine how people think about politics. It's that a political process in which religion is impacts or affects how people think about politics.
That's definitely really relevant in the United States, especially after 9/11.
Yep.
A lot of people think Islam is this backward and violent religion. So how would you respond to those people?
Well, what I say when I talk to people who have those sorts of opinions, and frankly there are a lot of people who work in academics who, at the end of the day, take and use very simplistic notions of how religion functions, not just with Islam, but often particularly with Islam because of the political ramifications. They hold very simplistic notions about how religion impacts people's political values, which is what I'm particularly interested in. And what I say is that just like in the United States, people don't often have a good sense of the doctrine or the theology behind their beliefs. And so to assume that whatever theological or doctrinal reading you're making of Islam is how everybody thinks about it is just sort of patently ridiculous. It doesn't work that way with Christianity. It doesn't work that way with any religion. At the end of the day, people use lots of different little bits and pieces to construct an idea of what their religion actually means for politics or for struggles or whatever is going on. And that process is no different in any religion. The cultural resources are a little bit different, but it's not about what Islam says. It's about what Muslims do with what's available. And oftentimes that varies so widely that you can't really make the kinds of conclusions that people want to make sometimes.
So now you have researched Islam so much. If you have only 3 words to describe Islam, what would they be?
Yeah, and this is a very difficult question because, of course, the point of my research is that religions don't break down so easily that way, and so I mean, diversity is ultimately what it really comes down to. I can really do it in one word, because religions aren't monolithic, and religions don't have monolithic effects on their adherents. No religion. It's not. This isn't particular to Islam. This is true of all religions, and so anything other than diversity is not an accurate depiction of any religious faith, especially a faith like Islam.
So you have that one word.
Just the one. Just the one.
Good. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.